Thanks for joining us. I'm Kelda Yoon. We're learning more today about the scope of the investigation that led to the arrest of Ontario's self-proclaimed crypto king. CBC Toronto broke the story on Aiden Pleterski nearly 2 years ago. Well, now, after an 18-month investigation, police have charged the 25-year-old with fraud and money laundering. Durham Regional Police holding a news conference this morning outlining the investigation. Angelina King was there.
Internet money gang, internet money.
Self-proclaimed crypto king Aiden Pleterski arrested and charged along with his associate Colin Murphy after an 18-month investigation that Durham police are calling the largest fraud investigation in the region's history.
A lot of lives have been devastated by this. It's very emotional for individuals.
Police say there are numerous alleged victims and millions of dollars missing. Investigators obtaining 40 court orders and thousands of financial documents as part of their probe, which also included 5 police services, the Ontario Securities Commission, or OSC, Canadian border agents, banks, even the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
The size of the alleged fraud was massive and spanned across multiple jurisdictions. The investigative team included forensic accountants from the OSC. This specialized skill set was vital in the investigation because it enabled us to analyze huge volumes of financial information, quantify the alleged fraud, and follow the money.
Exactly how much money, police won't say. Same with the number of victims, citing a routine court-imposed publication ban. But according to Pleterski's bankruptcy proceeding, he only invested about 2% of the more than $40 million given to him by about 160 people. It found he spent about $16 million on himself, renting private jets, leasing a mansion, and buying luxury cars. So far, the bankruptcy proceeding has recovered about $3 million.
It's alleged that Pleterski solicited funds from investors, promising massive profits and also guaranteeing no loss of the original money put out by investors. These investors became concerned when they were unable to access money held by Pleterski.
Police say he may have been trying to solicit new investors as recently as 3 months ago. Neither he nor his co-accused Colin Murphy were registered with the OSC, which means they weren't allowed to trade or give investment advice. Both have been released. Pleterski's parents posted his $100,000 bail. While his bail conditions don't allow him to post on social media about financial matters,
these rows of flames.
He has been uploading videos like this since his release, and today posting this message after the police news conference. Along the way, there's been a lot of twists and turns.
I'm sorry. I really am.
During Pleterski's bankruptcy proceeding, this video was sent to CBC Toronto, recorded during an alleged kidnapping of Pleterski. This summer, an investor and 3 other men were charged with allegedly kidnapping him. Then, the mansion he used to live in was at the center of a lawsuit involving a Canadian NBA star who said there'd been threatening visits to the property by those looking for Pleterski.
Can you come to Melbourne for one night? I'll fly you out.
Plus, Pleterski, in the middle of a bankruptcy proceeding, had been jet-setting around the world, saying he was making money by streaming videos of himself online.
That's a long time coming. It's a positive result for many of the victims. They've been hoping for this. The conditions that are likely placed on his bail release should put a dent onto his lifestyle of flaunting this money all over the world.
Pleterski is scheduled to be back in court in June, and investigators believe there are more victims out there and are asking them to come forward. Angelina King, CBC News, Whitby.
The TTC is launching an investigation into the cause of Monday's major subway closure. The incident forced a portion of Line 2 to be shut down for 12 hours. We've got Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords here to break it all down for us. And Sean, this caused a lot of headaches for commuters from the morning rush right through to the evening commute. What do we now know about Monday's service disruption?
That's right, Kelda. So we got the first real detailed analysis of what happened on Monday. TTC CEO Rick Leary spoke today telling the TTC Board of Commissioners that there was a service car in the subway system that leaked hydraulic fluid over a pretty broad stretch, a number of kilometers under the system. And that oil created effectively slippery conditions that caused some test subway cars to skid past their stopping point. The TTC determined that that was not a safe environment to run the transit system or that portion of the transit system in, and that caused the delay. Now the question really remains, what caused this fluid leak? Because we're finding out this isn't the first time that this has happened. In fact, it's happened 10 times over the past 5 years, but here's the catch. 7 of those times have been over the past 5.5 months. So TTC CEO Rick Leary obviously is concerned about this. Here's what he had to say about this investigation that he has launched and the potential causes or his concerns about the cause of the leak.
I mentioned it in the board meeting. There's some hoseware that I'm just not familiar with after 40 years in this business. Let's find out what's going on.
Rick, are you trying to suggest that these incidents are intentional, that someone has cut these lines?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think what it is we have to find out or get to the root cause of what caused it. Just suppose it was a failure of a pot, and we want to make sure the industry knows, right? So that's what we do in this industry. Deep dive, find out the cause. I don't exclude anything, though, but I need to find out the cause.
So overall, Leary is apologizing to TTC riders, people who were inconvenienced by the disruption on Monday. And he's saying he's going to be reporting on a monthly basis to the board with any potential updates on this investigation, Kelda.
Yeah, 7 times in the last 5 months. That's a lot. What are TTC board members saying about all this?
You know, there was a lot of confusion and I would say some frustration on the part of TTC commissioners, city councilors who were on that board. You know, normally I think they would have expected they would have been updated prior to a meeting on things like this, these details. Going into the meeting, it was pretty clear they didn't have all the facts. They didn't have all of the details that the CEO laid out in this meeting. So, as I said, there was some frustration about that. Let's hear from Councillor Josh Matlow on that issue here specifically.
Why did it take such a horrible incident after so many repeated hydraulic oil spills that created unsafe situations that disrupted people's lives and commutes? Why did it take that chaos for this report to actually come to the board ultimately today?
So Matlow was saying in this meeting as well that he's concerned that these incidents, this latest incident specifically, just further undermines the TTC's efforts to recover ridership coming out of the pandemic. If the TTC is not reliable, people will choose other ways to travel. And he's looking at these incidents and saying, look, we've got to do better and service has to improve.
And Sean, the spill was the focus of the meeting today, but we understand there is another major issue looming in the background. Tell us about the contract talks between the Transit Workers Union and the TTC.
Well, Kelda, there's a very important development to report, and that's that the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 113, which represents a lot of workers at the TTC, some key workers, operators, you know, people front lines, really, they have applied for a no board report. Now, it's a technical term, which is part of labor negotiations, and it means that they've asked the province effectively to say, you can have the legal right to strike, but there's a countdown. It takes 17 days after the issue of this no board report to put them in a legal strike position. Now, all of the parties involved, they're saying they are still at the table. They are still optimistic that they can reach a deal before that 17-day period expires. Roughly, that would be around the start of June. We'll have to see. This is certainly something to watch.
All right. Thanks so much, Sean. That's our Sean Jeffords reporting from City Hall. The Crown and defense presented their final arguments in the trial of Dallas Lee today. The 23-year-old is charged with killing and dismembering his mother in their Leslieville apartment 2 years ago. Now, he has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder. Tyler Cheese has the latest.
For almost 3 weeks, the jury has heard all the evidence relating to the night that Dallas Lee killed his mother. In his own testimony last week, he says it was never his intention to kill her, but that's exactly what the defense and the Crown are debating in their final statements to the jury. Lee's defense lawyer, Jessica Greenwood, has asked the jury to consider acquitting him of the charge of murder. She says from the evidence, it's clear that Lee did not intend to kill his mother. Greenwood reiterated the defense's position that he had only himself to rely on and that he made panicked decisions out of self-preservation. The defense team has attributed all of this to a history of mental and emotional abuse Lee says he experienced at the hands of his mother. This photo of Lee's back showing marks that he says are scars from his mother's beatings was included in the evidence shown to the jury. The defense also argued his actions following the homicide, failed attempts to clean up the evidence, to dispose of the body, and to flee are evidence that he did not plan the killing. But the Crown countered that argument, saying while the killing may not have been planned, Lee's actions afterwards show he was making deliberate decisions. Crown attorney Jay Spare further argued that Lee grabbing a hunting knife before confronting his mother, something Lee admits was intended to intimidate her, is another intentional decision. He told the jury the moment Lee attacked his mother with the knife, he intended to kill or cause bodily harm. During his testimony, Lee said his mother was furious that night. He had told her he was going to move out to live with his aunt. Lee testified that his mother hit him and threatened to kill him and his aunt, and that she was blocking the front door of the apartment. When she refused to move, he said he started swinging a hunting knife. One of his swings connected with his mother's neck, and she fell to the floor. But the Crown highlighted some inconsistencies in Lee's version of events. He told the court his mother threatened to kill him and his aunt, but he had previously told a psychiatrist she threatened to hurt them. He told the doctor he imagined his mother throwing a punch, but said in court that she did punch him. The defense argues these discrepancies are a result of Lee suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, something 2 forensic psychiatrists involved in the case agree he shows symptoms of. However, the psychiatrists disagree on the source of his PTSD. The defense's psychiatrist, Dr. Patel, who interviewed Lee 3 times prior to the trial, says he exhibited symptoms before his mother's death and that child abuse is the likely cause. While the Crown psychiatrist, Dr. Yosef, who did not interview Lee herself but offered a second opinion on Patel's reports, says his symptoms are a result of the traumatic night in question. Both the Crown and the defense spent much of their closing arguments attacking the positions of the opposing doctors, with each side urging the jury to disregard the other side's expert. So there are a lot of details for the jury to consider in this case, but that's not set to happen now until next week. The judge has asked them to return on Tuesday to receive his charge instructions ahead of deliberations. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
The Ontario government wants the City of Toronto to drop its request to decriminalize drug use. And in an unusual move, a pair of ministers wrote to Toronto's medical officer, calling the request misguided. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop has more as the battle continues over how to best help those who are struggling with drug addiction.
The Ontario government worries decriminalizing drugs in Toronto will make public spaces unsafe.
We don't want more drugs in our parks. We don't want more drugs in our streets.
The Solicitor General is one of 2 ministers who wrote to Toronto's Medical Officer of Health. 2 years ago, she asked the federal government for an exemption to decriminalize. Ontario is 100% opposed to your proposal. The letter reads, under no circumstances will our government ever support your request. And they say they're surprised the exemption request hasn't been rescinded yet.
It is a little unusual to receive a letter as a public servant directly from elected officials.
The medical officer says her request is about trying to save lives, with the most recent number showing more than 500 people in a year died due to overdose. And she says this ask came from the Board of Health as a whole.
Any change to that will require the consideration of the Board of Health. It's not a simple decision that any one person, myself included, can take on their own.
The board's application to allow people to carry a small amount of drugs for personal use says criminalizing drug possession only makes it harder for drug users to get support. The proposal calls for decriminalization to be paired with a host of more direct public health responses, including scaled-up harm reduction and mental health services. This is all coming as decriminalization in BC was amended, a pilot project no longer allowing drug use in public spaces. And since then, the Ford government has already come out strongly against the plan to decriminalize here.
This is known as the Made in Toronto solution. I think it's more like the Made in Toronto disaster waiting to happen.
The province's solution is treatment programs, citing a 10-year, multi-billion-dollar commitment. But Toronto's mayor quoted a survey by the Board of Health.
1 out of 3 people that are homeless, that are addicted, said they will go into a treatment program if it is available. And them it is not available.
The province's letter also mentions consumption sites and adding extra accountability measures to existing locations. It said it's been reviewing the sites since a shooting outside one of them last summer.
The thing that's kind of concerning is talking about safe consumption sites and concerned that they're not recognizing that that is a path to treatment.
A spokesperson for the health minister says they're ensuring the sites are living up to their requirements, and they'll have more details in a few weeks. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Family members of Solomon Fakiri are demanding an apology from the Ford government. The mentally ill man died in 2016 at the Central East Correctional Centre in Lindsay after a violent struggle with correctional officers. Now, last December, a coroner's inquest confirmed that Fakiri's death was a homicide. Jurors issued 57 recommendations aimed at preventing similar deaths, including committing to independent oversight of provincial jails. But so far, the province hasn't said if it will act on any of the recommendations. Fakiri's brother Yusuf called out the government for inaction at a news conference at Queen's Park today.
Imagine what it feels to fight for 7 years for an inquiry. Imagine that inquiry provides you with the agonizing truth that your loved one was killed in prison by the guards at the institution. And then imagine silence. How many tragic deaths and inquests do we need until governments do their duty to protect our most vulnerable and transform the correctional system?
The Solicitor General addressed the family for the first time during question period. Michael Kurtzner saying, quote, "Our thoughts are with the family." He says his government is committed to investing in intervention training at correctional facilities. Service Ontario locations could be moving to more third-party retail stores. Now, we previously told you about the province's deal with Staples, which saw them close down 9 privately run locations and relocate them to Staples stores. Well, now the government is looking to expand to other private retailers. It has posted a request online looking for retailers of all sizes to host these new Service Ontario locations and to submit an application if they're interested. This is a departure from the Staples deal, which was not put to open tender and use taxpayer dollars to retrofit the locations. Welcome back. Police are stepping up security at Woodbine Beach this long weekend, leading up to the big fireworks display on Monday. Things have gotten out of hand at Woodbine in recent years, with groups of revelers shooting fireworks at each other and at police. Brittany Billette has more on how the city intends to help keep celebrations safe.
All weekend long across Woodbine Beach, police are patrolling on ATVs, horses, bikes, and on foot. They even set up security cameras. There's one thing in particular they'll be watching for.
Please do not bring your own fireworks to the beach. The city has spent a lot of money for a spectacular presentation that occurs each year. If you have fireworks and you are setting them off, there is a $1,000 bylaw fine that you will be subject to. Please don't even bring them into the park, leave them in your car.
In 2022, more than 20 people were arrested during the Victoria Day weekend at Ashbridges Bay. Police say many of them were caught shooting fireworks at people, including officers on horses.
Groups that will engage in firework wars where they shoot fireworks at each other.
Police were on the beach last year patrolling the area. They say there were no arrests, fines, or injuries, and they're hoping the same thing happens this year, too. Some people at the beach said they welcome the extra security.
I love my neighborhood. I love my beach, and it's definitely for everybody, but I feel like it just gets really crazy. So I'm all for police stepping up their presence.
Definitely, it's a safety concern. It's good that they're here, but they could have fun, just make sure that, stay safe.
Police are also reminding people that no drinking, loud music, or DJ setups are allowed at Woodbine Beach, and they're encouraging people to take the TTC.
We have increased parking enforcement that will be down here.
The OPP issued its own warning Thursday, stressing the importance of water safety.
We have seen a tragic increase in water fatalities. 23 people died last year in marine fatalities. 21 of those who died either fell overboard or capsized in the boat. 17 of those who died were not wearing a life jacket.
Police say every boat should have enough life jackets on board for each person, even if wearing one at all times isn't mandatory. They add that because the water is still so cold, temperatures could send someone into shock, even if they consider themselves a strong swimmer. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
And Colette, of course, the big question, how's the weather looking this long weekend? We're getting ever so close.
Yes, we are. We're getting there. And as we've gotten closer and closer through the week, the forecast has actually been improving. So I really like what I'm seeing, and I am going to get to that so that you can have a look. I also like what I'm seeing, although it's a kind of different weather pattern, but I like what I'm seeing in the west, carrying on with that more widespread rain shower activity and some of the soaking rains, too, around Fort McMurray and that region. So helping with the wildfire situation there. Yes, there are some lightning strikes in here. We don't want that, but just that they're getting some moisture back into the atmosphere and also some cooler temperatures you can see through here, too, as that system is working its way through. Now, we have a system that's got to work its way through before we can get to that long weekend. Some of that cooler air to the north in Ontario as well. Really nice temperatures, though. Very comfortable today, 20 to 22 in Windsor, Barrie at 22 degrees. That's the current reading. Now, there's been some humidity building in southwestern Ontario. The humidex starting to factor in, and we'll have some humidity coming our way as well. But it's still going to be generally comfortable, especially closer to the lakeshore. We had some of that cloud cover that built into the afternoon today, fair weather stuff, and now we're finding that disappearing. But as we go into the overnight, we'll get some cloud cover coming back with this next system that's approaching us. Where is it sitting right now? Well, it's back well to the west of us near Lake Michigan. Yes, there are a few thunderstorms with this as well. So tomorrow we have that risk kind of midday, especially into the afternoon, where an isolated thunderstorm is going to be possible. But for our overnight, at least for the evening, we have nice conditions. Then for the overnight, we get some increasing cloudiness. I do think we're generally going to stay dry as well. Any of those cells trying to get close to us will be drying up. That won't be the case, though, with everything coming in tomorrow. So in the morning hours, if you are traveling, you're getting a jump start on a long weekend, you're traveling tomorrow, the roadways will be wet earlier in the day in southwestern Ontario, then improvement there in just isolated stuff. But it's really going to be kind of midday as we get towards 11 o'clock, towards lunch, and thereafter where we'll have most of the rain that's coming through the GTA, and then improvement behind that. So we will see things clearing out into Friday, at least in terms of the rainfall. There'll be some cloud cover, maybe a little bit of low-level clouds, some fog early Saturday, and then that's going to burn off so quickly. And why is that? Because we're going to just have so much sunshine that will be coming our way. So really looking forward to that once we get through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Yes, the trifecta. Tuesday doesn't look bad either, but sunshine all through the period.
Look at all that sun. I'm loving it. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
It's beginning to feel like patio season, and as the city had promised, its Patio program is in full swing for the May long weekend. Tally Ricci spoke to business owners who say this year's process was pretty smooth.
Sunshine plus a long weekend is a recipe for lots of foot traffic in the Beaches neighborhood. And this brewery owner is happy that his customers will have the chance to sip their beers outside.
We are in a very unique position where we don't have our own native patio. A lot of the businesses around here do. And we can't just because of how the building's built and where it is and all that stuff. So Patio is a real help to us. It improves our visibility on the street like tenfold.
This year, the city promised an improved experience after last season was rife with challenges and delays. The program began as a pandemic measure, but is now heading into its second permanent year.
Well, you know what they say, fourth time is a charm. Last year, the city brought forward a lot of requirements that, frankly, were quite challenging for small businesses. The requirement to have designers, architects, engineers involved in stamping drawings for patios was probably a little bit of overkill.
The city says this year it delivered a more streamlined process for applications or renewals, as well as more city staff support. Business owners notice.
This year is amazing. We got approved and our paperwork from, I think, March. And then versus last year where they dropped these concrete blocks in mid-June. This year they're out in early May. So it was over a month in advance of what we had last year.
It was actually fairly painless. We got the permit early on. The city was really proactive with the restaurants that were just renewing. We got our tables all ready, all sanded and varnished, and the umbrellas came in, and we did our planting yesterday. So we're excited to be open for a long weekend.
The city says 95% of participating restaurant operators will be equipped to open their curb lane cafes this long weekend.
We have more than 290 curb length participants, including 81 brand new ones and 215 returning restaurants. More than 1,000 patios will be activated as of this weekend.
This West End cafe says their Patio patio doubles their customers. As restaurants continue to struggle post-pandemic, the extra space means a lot.
Before we had the patio, we had a hard time having people come inside. We don't have air conditioning, and people want to be outside in the sun in the summer, so the patio is really well used.
And the hope is that these sunny patios encourage more people to support local businesses this summer.
Nothing's better than that. The gratification that I get out of having a restaurant full of people enjoying beer that I made and, a vision that I've created, that's really gratifying for me.
And there will be lots of time to enjoy the Patio patios because they're sticking around until October 15th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A free meal service in the city's West End says a planned renovation of its space will hurt clients in need. But Toronto Community Housing says the changes are needed to help tenants and to meet accessibility standards. As Vanessa Ballantyne reports, advocates hope a middle ground can be reached.
The Stop Community Food Centre is due for a renovation, but staff say it may come at the expense of locals in need.
We're hoping to figure out a way where it won't.
The Stop serves 60,000 free meals a year to people in Toronto's West End. They've been told to remove all items in their drop-in space by June 3rd. Its landlord, Toronto Community Housing, told CBC Toronto it needs to renovate to meet accessibility standards and help tenants who live in the building. If the renovations go forward, the Stop will move about 3 kilometers away on St. Clair West.
The unfortunate part of that is that it's not in this riding. It's not accessible to those with accessibility issues, which is the ironic thing, quite frankly, here. And it will require people to travel quite a distance to get to.
The changes include a renovated kitchen and common area, but London says it will cut down access to their drop-in space and pose a safety risk when it's time to transfer and serve food.
We definitely don't want the message to be that we're anti or against the accessibility upgrades. We just want to get back to the table with Toronto Community Housing, have the conversation, consider other options, and let's see how we can move forward.
Community members are mixed on what the changes mean for them.
The weather doesn't always make it accessible to get there, and the price increase towards TTC is not always fundable.
What is the problem that needs to be renovated? It's working very well.
There's a lot of changes coming to the Stop, but it's going to benefit everybody immensely, all for the good.
But one food bank operator is concerned about the short-term impact. Neil Hetherington, the CEO of Daily Bread Food Bank, says over 300,000 people in Toronto visited food banks last month.
We see the stress already in the community. We see rising numbers, but at the same time we need to celebrate maybe it's better space that will come about and make sure that they will be fed with a sense of dignity in a welcoming environment.
Toronto Community Housing says the renovation is scheduled to begin this year and will last about 6 months. It says it's working with the Stop and is committed to minimizing disruption during construction. Vanessa Ballantyne, CBC News, Toronto.
Organizers of the pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Toronto are continuing to meet with school administration to discuss their demands. The two sides held a lengthy meeting yesterday, and as Lane Harrison reports, students say progress is being made.
It's been 2 weeks since the encampment at UFT began, with organizers saying it's steadily grown in size since. The students want the school to disclose all investments, divest from businesses that support Israel's military, and sever ties with some Israeli academic institutions. Yesterday, students spent more than 2 hours discussing those demands with campus administration. On their main demand, students say the university is still offering to create a committee that would consider divestment.
We know that processes are not good enough, processes are not commitments, and a committee is not a commitment, right? So essentially, there's no guarantee that at the end of going through all those processes that the outcome would be divestment.
The students also had a positive update to share, saying the university has been surprisingly open to creating an Institute of Palestinian Studies, but they reiterated their principal demands remain paramount.
If the university gives us this reconciliation prize without divestment, without disclosure, without cutting ties, the Palestinian Studies Institute won't be an institute for Palestinian people. It'll be an archaeology institute for the study of Palestine. It'll be a past tense. It'll be a diorama of, a long gone tragedy.
The university shared its own update today, reiterating its goal of a peaceful resolution. It says students have worked with the school to mitigate concerns about sanitation. The school added, "We continue to discuss signs and language and emphasize how important it is that they be consistent with the spirit of peaceful protest." Students say the university has verbally assured them they don't want to call in police.
But when asked for a public written statement to explicitly confirm that they would not call the police on this encampment, the university said that they were not able to provide that.
Graduation ceremonies near the encampment are set to begin in early June, but the students say they're going to stay put until their demands are met. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
In Alberta, more than 6,000 people remain out of their homes as firefighters battle an out-of-control wildfire near Fort McMurray. But rain, cooler temperatures, and calmer winds are now giving the crews an assist. Julia Wong has the latest.
There is some cautious optimism from officials about the wildfire that's threatening Fort McMurray. As of Thursday morning, the fire was about 20,000 hectares, and it remains mere kilometers from the community. There are 172 firefighters, 22 helicopters, and 57 pieces of heavy equipment that are working to try and tackle the flames. Officials say that this fire will take time, it will take work to put out because of the size and scope of this fire, but also because of how dry conditions have been. Now, the area has been getting some rain and more is expected in the coming days. Crews will need a lot more to put out those flames completely, but they say this is a good start.
We're graced with Mother Nature's kindness here today. We'll take as much rain as we can get on the fire. Obviously, it will have a positive impact versus what we had witnessed a few days prior.
It's good to hear. Yeah, it means that we'll be able to get home sooner than later.
Officials say that evacuees should be prepared to stay away from the community until next Tuesday at the earliest. They say they don't want to bring people back in, only to have the flames flare up again and have to evacuate people a second time. Julia Wong, CBC News, Lac La Biche, Alberta.
Donald Trump's hush money trial in New York is winding down. Today, his former lawyer and fixer faced another round of grilling by Trump's lawyers, who continue to attack his integrity and credibility. Michael Cohen's testimony could potentially make or break the case for the former U.S. president. Sally Patterson reports from outside the courthouse.
Donald Trump's attorneys have a two-pronged approach when it comes to dealing with Michael Cohen. Firstly, discrediting the testimony he's given so far in Trump's hush money trial, and secondly, trying to discredit him as a witness overall. They've been examining him throughout the day here in New York City, asking him about the testimony that he's already given. They've also been digging into his past and the lies that he's admitted he made both to Congress, to the media, and in fact to judges in cases gone by. They say that proves that he is not a reliable witness and instead is a angry, disgruntled former employee. The court heard a recording played from last year where Cohen is heard saying, "I truly hope that this man ends up in prison. You better believe I want this man to go down and rot inside for what he did to my family." They're trying to prove that Cohen's allegations that Trump knew everything about the payment made allegedly to Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election to try and suppress negative information just before Americans went to the polls was actually nothing to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with Michael Cohen. Instead, Trump proclaims he's innocent, calling this a witch hunt, political interference at the very highest level. He was joined in court on Thursday by his usual entourage of Republican lawmakers. Here's what they had to say.
This is a made-up crime. No other American in the country would be charged with this type of crime. It's like the Mr. Potato Head doll of crimes, where they had to stick together a bunch of things that did not belong together.
Michael Cohen's testimony could make or break this case for the jury. This is expected to be the last witness so far, as the defense has suggested they won't be pulling up any witnesses of their own. That could change in the coming days and weeks. Sally Patterson for CBC News, New York.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is on a 2-day state visit to China, one of his strongest allies and trading partners. The leaders of both countries used the meeting to reaffirm their close ties in front of the world. And while Beijing claims neutrality when it comes to Russia's war in Ukraine, it continues to supply Moscow with key components for weapons production. Briar Stewart has more.
When Vladimir Putin arrived in Beijing to meet China's leader Xi Jinping, there were plenty of shows of solidarity. China will always be a good neighbor, good friend, said Xi. They agreed to strengthen ties, including military cooperation, but offered few specifics. But China, which has become an economic lifeline to Russia, is under pressure from Washington. U.S. officials have warned China to stop selling technology like microchips to Russia, which it can use to build weapons, or risk Chinese banks being cut out of the U.S. financial system.
Russia wants some help, and China is a little bit reticent about providing that help.
Kurt Volker is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO and says Chinese banks are nervous.
They don't want to see any kind of alignment with Russia jeopardize its broader economic interests globally.
After years of surging trade between Russia and China, March and April saw a dip compared to the same time last year. Analysts blame China's fears over possible sanctions. In Beijing, people are divided over the relationship. China is getting very close to Russia, says this woman, and I don't think it's a good thing. I think the two countries can have a win-win relationship, says this man. And that's how both of these leaders are selling it. Putin said they also discussed Ukraine, though China is officially neutral on the war. We are grateful to the Chinese friends and colleagues for the initiatives they put forward to solve this problem, Putin said. In a joint statement, China and Russia said they didn't want the Ukraine conflict to escalate. China put forward a 12-point peace plan last year, but it was vague and didn't explicitly call for Russian troops to withdraw from Ukraine. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Tallinn.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX rose 15 points, the Dow dropped 39 points, and the dollar traded down for 73.42 cents US. We'll be right back with another look at our top stories. Exciting news from the Toronto Zoo. 2 snow leopard cubs were born on Monday. Ajita, the 3-year-old snow leopard you see there, spending some quality time and getting in some cuddles with the cubs. The zoo announced back in April that Jita was pregnant for the first time. Pemba, the father of the 2 cubs, and Jita are part of the snow leopard species survival plan, which is a cooperative breeding program among zoos in North America. Snow leopards are currently listed as a vulnerable species.
That one flies wide. Liz Shepard's right from Minnesota scores!
And with that, Minnesota forced Game 5 against Toronto in Professional Women's Hockey League semifinal action. Minnesota's Claire Butorak sneaked one past goalie Kristen Campbell 4 minutes into double overtime. This was Toronto's first playoff game without star forward Natalie Spooner, who's out for the season after a knee injury. Game 5 is back here in Toronto tomorrow night. And hopefully tomorrow night, Game 5, do or die, Toronto can get that win and kick off the long weekend right.
Toronto in 5, right?
Toronto in 5. That's what we're calling it.
Yep, we got it. We got this one. All right, yes, hoping for that. And also, obviously, lots of folks hoping for some nice weather conditions as we head into, we're getting inching closer to the long weekend. So one impediment in terms of active weather that we'll need to contend with. And that small hurdle is going to be coming through tomorrow. So technically, it's not, I know, Some folks, you get a jump on the weekend. It's not technically into the holiday weekend yet. I'll walk you through the timing on that and what to expect. Then that clears a path for us to get into not only a lot of sunshine through the long weekend, but the temperatures are going to be on the move too, warming up. So things really looking good on maybe some of the smaller lakes. Okay, the temperatures, the water, still going to be chilly, definitely on our bigger lakes. All right, current readings right now, they look like this. We're sitting at 20 degrees. Oshawa as well. Peterborough a little warmer at 22, and Kingston coming in there 23 degrees. And my warm spot on this map anyway is Sarnia. You folks 24 there. So some of the cloud cover from earlier, we're seeing that disappearing. So for the time being, we have clearer conditions as we get closer to sunset. But this is that next system that's moving towards us. Okay, so actually into the overnight, we'll see some increasing cloudiness becoming partly cloudy. Then by tomorrow morning, essentially mostly cloudy skies. But most of that wet weather tomorrow in those morning hours will be in southwestern Ontario. It begins to creep towards us as we get towards 10 in western sections of the GTA, 11 a.m., noon, and a few thunderstorms in there too. So locally, some heavier downpours if possible. But by the time we're into Friday afternoon, we're getting clearing, some low-level cloud early Saturday, and then the sun comes out, burns that off, and then we get to enjoy conditions like this as we go through the holiday weekend to Victoria Day, climbing to the mid-20s with that sun.
Beauty, Colette, beauty.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much. And that is our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. There is no newscast at 11 because of NHL playoffs. We will see you back here tomorrow night at 6. Have a great night, everyone.